Hello everybody, Brad here today and welcome back to Planet Zoo. So starting off with a time lapse here, this finishes at around 15 minutes into the video, and today we're going to be working on getting in some Western African lions. So really looking forward to that. I have two in my trade centre already, so we're going to pop those in, and I wanted to really get an exhibit up here on this kind of plateau area. So this is still in our Africa area. It's right on the edge between Africa and Asia. So I thought, right, we've got the tigers, that little tiger cave there, let's get in some lions. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to have a kind of exhibit that had water around the front. And then what we do is we actually get some one-way glass for the front. So visitors can come up to that glass. There's some donation boxes, there's some education screens, some education speakers, and they can have a little look into our lion enclosure. And then speaking, or at least thinking about next episode and kind of future for the series, I would like to continue with the Africa area. I don't know if I'm going to keep this plateau going, or if then we'll start to go back down to, kind of standard ground level. I'm not sure yet. But the safari is on the horizon. That's what I'd like to do next anyway. So I'll see how it goes. So we're just doing like a little bit of glass, a little bit of brick. And I thought I'd do a little path here just so you could go up there and have a little bit of a look into the enclosure if you wanted to. And I think something that we're going to struggle with, and I have helped that by getting in a monorail, which you'll see later on in the time lapse. I think something that we're going to struggle with is trying to get people up here. It's quite a long walk, so I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle possibly just to get people up here and trying to engage them with the exhibits that we have up here. So we're going with quite a high habitat, so it's 3 meters, that's the minimum for lions, but we're using the brick, which I think are non-climbable, and the only bit that I was a little bit worried about was the glass, but I think because the water is so close, I don't think there's much risk of them breaking the glass. And I had a little bit of an idea here just to get in one of the wooden shelters and build a rock cave for the lions around that shelter. So it gives us a little bit of a base, and then we can use the grassland, savanna rock, just to really build up a really nice natural looking cave around this. So in the end I think it looks pretty good. In the end we do put more brick around the exhibit, so I was quite tempted to have a very natural looking habitat and have most of the habitat barrier actually be rock, but it takes way too much time, and I love playing the game, but I do find placing 4,000 rocks not exactly the most exhilarating thing in the world. So what I thought I would do is try and make a nice looking cave with the rock, but then use the brick around the outside. And we do a little bit of the habitat where at the back we have like this little plateau region. And when I was doing the trees and foliage, we put a nice umbrella tree up there. But then the lions actually said there's actually just too much foliage in the exhibit, too many plants. So I did have to get rid of it. So there is a bit of a plateau at the back of this exhibit that looks a little bit strange because there's just nothing there. So this is the little cave. We have some extra large bedding inside, nothing fancy. It's perfect for 2 lions. In fact, if anything, it's actually a tiny little bit too small, but for now it's going to be absolutely fine for us. So now you see we continue with the brick. We just get a little bit more brick going around the exhibit. And it's not the biggest exhibit in the world, but it still is plenty big enough for the lions. I think it's about twice as large as the minimum, so I think that's quite a nice amount. And I'm really enjoying where this series is going. I'm just really enjoying this zoo. It's a game that you really need to be in the mood for this game, because it's not the kind of game where you can just half-ass stuff. If you half-ass stuff, it's just going to look crap. That's just being honest. It is just going to look crap. If you half-ass stuff, if I can speak, it's not going to look good. So I tend to play it when I'm feeling the most creative. And then other games I can kind of not wing, and I still have to be engaged and creative with what I'm doing, but I feel like this game I really have to have a little bit of inspiration before I play. So a really good kind of resource for that is Pinterest. So I did have a look at Pinterest. I had a look at a few African lion exhibits, and I kind of took a bit of inspiration from that with some rocks here around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. So yeah, I'm pretty happy in the end. The foliage, it's difficult because the lions don't actually like that much foliage. I could have gone a lot more crazy with the elephant grass. You know guys, if you're familiar with my Planet Zoo videos, you know how much I love some elephant grass. So I could have gone a bit crazy with it, but I decided not to in the end, and kind of just go for a bit more chilled out foliage, make sure it's in the green for the lions, and they're happy with what we're doing. So here we're getting the things out like the feeders, the water pipe. We'll be getting out the terrain, so most of it's long grass with little bits of rock, and I put some soil around the water's edge just so it looks a little bit realistic. I think around the water's edge you wouldn't just have water then straight to grass, you'd have that little bit that might be a bit boggy and a bit muddy. So just checking there that lions can't get out, because we would not want a zoo where the lions can get out. And as you can see, I cut to sort of more daylight, and we're just putting in more things like the elephant grass, the candelabra tree, the how do you pronounce that, baobab? Is it the baobab tree? The one in the background. I really like that tree, but again it was taking like 10% of the lion's foliage, so I'm fairly sure we keep the baobab, however you pronounce it, but I do get rid of the umbrella tree that's at the back here. I'll get rid of that one there. I quite like this back bit with a couple of trees. The lions don't really go up here. I actually should probably check the transversal terrain. I don't actually know if they can even get up there. But yeah, because of the foliage requirements, we just had to get rid of some. So in the end, I think we get rid of a little bit of the elephant grass, and we get rid of the umbrella tree at the back, which gets the welfare for plants and coverage in that green for our lions. So it's pretty happy with how the enclosure turned out. Spending a little bit of time here just getting a few more rocks in. I do need to go back to the back of the exhibit of the lines and just get rid of some of the rocks that are just creeping out from the back wall. So as you can see here, I've got some donation boxes, some lights, some bins around here, just so the guests have a few things to kind of do and look at. That's the Bengal tiger sign. I don't know if I actually looked at the Bengal tiger sign at the end of last episode, but I did redo that just so that looks a lot nicer. So people can come over to this way of the park. They can have a look at some lions. They can go down into our tiger cave. It's a pretty good part of the zoo. Like I said, I do get in the monorail, so that really should help. I hope, kind of just facilitating getting those guests up here to this part of the park. It is a bit remote, it is a bit out of the way, so maybe they'll come up here and see all of our lovely animals. So here is when I'm starting to think about the monorail. So we get in a station here, we get in a station by the reptile house around about here. Then we get another one over by the flamingos, where we've also just chucked down a staff room, so around about here. So that's sort of near the flamingos, near the red pandas. And around here is where I'd like to start really developing our Asia area. So I'd love to get in some monkeys. So we could possibly next time think about monkeys and how we're going to sort of fill this area in a little bit, because the monorail gets a bit snaky, and I hope that will build a little bit of character with it. I don't want a dead straight monorail that goes around in an exact circle all the time. I want it to be a little bit funky and have a little bit of character to it. So again here, like I said, we come up here and we're getting a nice monorail station for up here, and hopefully that will facilitate us getting some guests up to this end of the park. This was a bit of a tricky bit because I didn't know whether to go underground, and I didn't know how difficult it was to actually place the monorail underground. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like if you try and go under a building, under a path, under anything at all, it just throws a bit of a hissy fit. So what we do in the end is we actually just go above. So we basically go above everything. So we go above the entrance to the zoo, above the buildings, above that large staff room that we got, just to make sure that the monorail can act as a loop. Because at the start, I had the monorail as a shuttle, which is great, but I think on the shuttle you can only have the one car. And I thought, oh, this track is so long, and the purpose of the track is for us to facilitate movement around the park, right? So it's a bit pointless us having it as a shuttle, because if we can only have one car, it's just not going to be able to move the amount of passengers that we want to move via the monorail. So here you can see us opening up the reptile house, a bit like the other end there. It just opens up outside the exhibit areas, and this monorail was busy, you know, especially when it first opens. It is really busy, and it's doing exactly what we need it to do. It's moving people around the park a little bit faster. I think I set the speed to about 25 miles an hour, thereabouts. So it's got a fairly decent speed on it. You can get around the park fairly quickly. It's a bit of fun as you go around, really, as well, isn't it? You know, a bit of fun riding the monorail. So we have a little bit of a job connecting all the paths up. You'll see a little bit later on in this time lapse, we spend a little bit of time building around these monorail stations. So getting in some nice classically themed brick walls, nice slate roofs, just little buildings, like little mini train stations, just so we can really cap this off. So you see this here, so we start off with the brick, the classic theme of the brick, and we have an archway either side for the monorail cars to get in and out of, and then we do a nice little building around it using some of the bits from the classic theme, which I haven't really looked at that much. You know, I've used the Africa theme quite a lot, I've used the Asian theme quite a lot. I haven't really looked at the classic or Arctic themes yet. And I think this part of the zoo is where we could start thinking about, maybe a bit later on in the series, getting in some Arctic animals. So the polar bears, the reindeers, all of that kind of jazz. So I think that will be over at this end of the zoo, I think, for the moment anyway. So we're just connecting all the queues up, making sure that they go through the archways and they look fairly decent. And then what we'll start doing is start to build up the roof. Oh yeah, I was having lots of issues with the franchise mode going offline. It was driving me mental. And I'll just get in this keeper hut here just to give us a little bit of inspiration of what we want this build to look like. So I'm very happy just plagiarising other buildings, basically. So I got this building in and I thought, right, let's get something that looks fairly like that, but you know, not spending too much time trying to get it exactly how we want it. So sorry about that. You just see my changing a few screens. Like I said, I was having a few problems with franchise mode. I just kept having to save and restart the game. It was driving me absolutely bonkers. But I think from here on in we're okay. I don't think the game crashes again, or I hope not anyway. So we go to slate roof, and at the front of the building we've got two little limestone walls that kind of fill in the archways, just, you know, for something a little bit different, so it's not loads of brick in your face. And for the roof, I wasn't sure what to use. So with this classic theme, you get a glass house kind of construction set. So what I've done is I've used that glass house construction set for the roof. So it looks quite nice bright roof. You know, lots of train stations, especially here in the UK, have glass roofs. I'm pretty sure King's Cross has a glass roof. Waterloo has a glass roof, I think, doesn't it, in London? So it's just to give a little bit of light to these buildings, because they can be very, very dark places. That wasn't deep dark, that was just not light, not like you might get a bit depressed. Well, you might get a bit depressed if you're in it, I don't know. So just getting some clocks and signs around the outside. Got this little flower box out the front, got some African daisies in there just to have a little bit of colour. And then we go around and we pop in some windows. Again, it just makes it look so much more realistic, having things like windows and doors on your building. So I'd really recommend giving it a shot if you're building this kind of thing in Planet Zoo as well. So a couple of lights around the outside at night, you know, just to brighten up a little bit. And then I really wanted to get in a floor, because we could have just left it and just had the grass, but I don't think that's very realistic. You know, you don't go to many train stations where they don't have a floor, do you, for realistic? So I wanted to get in a little bit of a floor just so it looks nice. Now inside here we get a nice clock and two, like what would you call them? Because not paintings, are they? More like statues, like sculptures really. So we get some in, and then we get in some signs for lion and gorilla, I think we get. Just to kind of make it obvious to the visitors, you know, these are the kind of animals, big ticket animals, that you can see if you come on the monorail and have a little bit more of a wander through our zoo. So just go around here, sorting out a few of the exhibits. I think this is the Brazilian salmon pink tarantula, and they're basically all just breeding like crazy. So just having to keep go through, making sure that these animals have the right numbers and populations within these exhibits, just to make sure everyone's happy. Hello everybody, how are you doing? So I thought we'd take a look at what's changed between last episode and this one, and sort of have a bit more of an in-depth look of what we've done during the time lapses. Yeah, go away protesters, scum. Anyway, so obviously the main point, what is that lamppost doing? Let's get rid of that. I didn't even know that was there. Is the monorail. So we've got the monorail and I'm pretty happy with it. And we've got these pretty cute, if I may say so myself, little buildings around it. Can I open this now? Yeah, there you go. So it's open now. So I'm pretty happy with that. I just thought it was going to be an easier way for people to get around the zoo. And they've got one of those little buildings. There's such a duplicate on every single station. So what else has happened? Well, obviously a massive thing has been the West African lions. So really, really happy with how this exhibit sort of turned out. I don't know how I feel about this back bit. It's just kind of there. I need to kind of hide those rocks in a second. But yeah, not sure how I feel about that back bit. They could probably get away with that being the end of the exhibit there. But I'm not sure how I feel about that, so I think I'm going to leave that for a second. And what I'm kind of thinking for next episode and kind of the zoo in general is I'd like to start thinking about the safari. And I want the safari obviously to be in this Africa area, so kind of like here. However, I want to try and fill in these gaps between, between this episode and our next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find a way how I can fill in these gaps, maybe with shops, restaurants, drink shops, maybe some smaller exhibits with just smaller animals. If I move this building, so that's a power source, isn't it? Yeah, if I move the power source to here, could be actually getting like a really small exhibit for a small African animal, and then just start thinking about getting the safari over this end. So I hope you enjoyed the time lapse, guys, and please let me know if you have any comments, suggestions, feedback down below in the comment section, and I will reply to everyone. So I'm going to try and sell some of our Bengal tigers because it's getting a little bit crowded in here, and I'll see you in the next episode. So thank you very much for joining us today, guys, and I'll see you again in our next episode. See you later. Thank you very much for watching the video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel down below if you haven't done so already. And please feel free to follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Have a great day. See you later.